Very cool. So, I mean, this is almost like a physical therapy office.
It
Um,
is. And so that's what's different. It's chiropractics plus physical therapy, and then using some of the latest technology, laser and decompression, and then 3D foot scanners to help identify, isolate, and get rid of pain. The part that's been tougher longer term is realizing how much of this is actual sales. And I never saw that as part of the medical profession. I didn't go in and do the due diligence and ask more questions of, I want to talk to a first year owner. I want to talk to multiple first year owners. It wasn't until we were up and running and I talked to a couple of doctors who own their own clinics, and they said, yeah, it takes 6 months. And I was like, blink, blink. And so the runway I had planned for versus the runway reality that was coming out were very disparate, and it was a bit of a shock. And
Welcome to the Tracer Podcast, your inside track to all things franchising. We provide essential resources for anyone in the franchising world. Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to the Tracer Franchising Podcast. Today we have a franchisee who will be talking to us a little bit about his experience. Another veteran. I'm not going to hold it against him, but he is an Air Force guy. You guys know I'm a Marine, so I'm really excited to speak with him and hear about his experience. If you need help finding great franchises or doing the research, that's where I come in. It's totally free. I've got tons of free resources. Even if you don't want to talk to me, you can get them on my website. All right. So, Joe, let's start off with just you. Let's hear a little bit about your background and what got you to, where you are today.
well, Josh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. And here's to all my Marine Corps buddies. May it suck more. I want the Barker Lounger with the remote. I know who I am, so I appreciate the opportunity. So, ex Air Force guy, 10 years, got to the break point, got out, was doing the corporate gig. About 2010, I looked at a franchise, went out and was ready to purchase it. And then because it was, you must be open on Sundays, which for me is a go, no go. That's a family day, period, dot. Decided not to do it. And then about 3 years ago, I was reached out to by a franchise headhunter like yourself and said, hey, have you ever thought about it? And I said, yeah, I looked at it, but here's my 3 go, no goes. And he said, okay, I think I can work with that. And he came back with a list of 5, and we narrowed it down to 2. And we ended up purchasing a franchise with HealthSource Chiropractic. And so we've been open 7 months, and it's been a wild ride.
Yep, always is. So
Yes.
let's talk. What were your go no go? Like what led you to this one?
So for me, the go no go was I was not going to be in the food industry, and a lot of franchises are in the food industry. I just said I'm not going to do that because it's guaranteed, if not 24/7, close to 24/7. For me, Sundays had to be inviolate. That's family time. I wanted to have Saturday off, but that was a negotiable line. And then ultimately, it had to be a product that I believed in. And as an ex-military guy, I've got back problems, and I've been using chiropractors for a very long time. And these guys, HealthSource has the first model that isn't just here, let me crack you, come back next week. It's let's figure out what your problem is. Okay, your back hurts. Why? Well, what a crazy question. What causes that? And they build a plan that suits to you to get you healthy again, get you back doing what you love. And so that was the reason I continued with them. Then meeting corporate and meeting the support staff and the model, I'm like, okay, I'm all in, because it wasn't buy it, you're on an island. But on the flip side, it wasn't a McDonald's, you will do everything this way. It was, here's the generic template, you get to fill in and color a lot, which has been really good. And also, I'm going to be honest, really stressful at times.
Yeah. So let's dig in the model a little bit more, because that is unique, right? So what are people coming in and signing long-term contracts? Are they like, what does that look like?
So when you come in, the first visit, it's $29. You come in, you get X-rayed, you have a physical exam by the doctor. We do a foot scan because a lot of back pain comes from your feet.
What?
Yeah, seriously. I didn't know that either. And so if you have fallen arches, if you're pronating, if you're cramping your toes, lots of different stuff. And so we check for that. And then there's a mobility assessment. How well do you do a push-up? Shockingly, I did it wrong. I could do a lot of them, but I did it wrong. How well do you do a squat? And so do your knees go in? Do your knees go out? Do you push your head forward? So all of a sudden they have these 8 different tests, physical movements that they make you do. And then they pull it all together and say, here's your number one pain, but looking at your x-ray, we need to solve this before we can get rid of that. And so that's visit 1. Visit 2, we walk you through it. And then we say, okay, here is the optimal solution. Come in, unless you've been in a car crash, it's usually 24 to 36 visits, but that's going to vary. And then we just set up a timing and a 3-phase plan of phase 1, we get you out of pain. Phase 2 is all about strengthening and getting back that mobility, that alignment, and that stability. And then phase 3 is how do we keep you at that level going forward? It's like, yeah, you're always going to need to come in and get adjusted, but that's like an oil change every 3,000 to 6,000 miles. So
Very cool. So, I mean, this is almost like a physical therapy office.
it is. And so that's what's different. It's chiropractics plus physical therapy, and then using some of the latest technology, laser and decompression, and then 3D foot scanners to help identify, isolate, and get rid of pain.
Very cool. Very cool. So once they come in, right? So you have your initial offer to get them in, right? The hook.
Yep.
And then you move them up the value ladder by having this long-term, right, plan, and then you keep them around for the ongoing stuff. Are they signing a contract, or is this like month to month? Like if I have a plan for 24 visits,
Yep.
if I pay up front, do I get 20% off? Like, how do you guys kind of see that?
So what we have is, so that's a really great question. We're going to present to them the ideal plan because we're talking $2,000 to potentially $5,000. I mean, for some of the higher end, more extensive work, it's about finding out what works for them. And so we can make it a monthly payment plan. We can extend it out to a year with care credit. So there's different options. The biggest thing we have is something called Apex. It's a discount medical provider, and it allows us to take the insurance price and chop it drastically. But that's the incentive, meaning if you want to just come in and do this a la carte, it's price A. But if you sign up for the plan, I can give you price B, which is a significant discount.
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up is because the value of like someone paying is different, like how they're paying, right? So like, it sounds like you're offering them the ability to say like to lock it in for a lower.
Yep.
And so like when you go to resell, and I don't know if you're planning on keeping this forever, but like that makes the business more valuable for people who haven't thought about this. Like it's very cool. Okay. So are they paying with insurance, or is this all cash pay?
Both. So we work with some insurance companies, the ones that are prevalent here locally. And then we also have a discount price through the Apex organization.
Very cool. Okay. And then you said, it's been 7 months and you've gone through a whirlwind of, ups and downs. So what, just give us like, what's been the most stressful part of this? Like what's been the downs?
The opening, the month prior to the month after opening, just learning how to do it, how to run the computer, how to collect money, how to do the marketing. That was tough. Then the part that's been tougher longer term is realizing how much of this is actual sales. And I never saw that as part of the medical profession, but because this is chiropractic and it's seen as a lot of times incorrectly, I might add, as non-traditional or non-covered. It's I can't think of the term right now, but anyways, it makes it harder to convince people to come in because their insurance usually doesn't pick up a whole lot of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so the ability to help your doctors learn how to sell, not just prescribe, was something that I didn't key in on. and it wasn't something I was looking for. I have amazing doctors. They're learning on how to work and to, for lack of a better term, sell the value of living pain free, which is something they've never had to do before.
Yeah, so interesting because I would have thought finding good doctors would be the tough part, and like selling it would be the easy part, and it's the opposite.
It so it wasn't easy finding doctors,
Okay, all right.
but the long term day to day, that our biggest challenges is learning how to identify the right customer, present it to them in the right way, and then sell them on the value.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, and so we skipped over like finding the right location and building it out. Like, how was that?
So it wasn't. So it was hard, but it wasn't horrible. The biggest, we worked with a real estate agent that the franchise recommended, and they did a great job. The biggest complaint I had was they didn't realize we needed at least 200 amps of power, and 300 was recommended, and the building only had 100. And so all of a sudden, we were in contract negotiations, and the architect is the one who brought this up, and we went, "Wait, what?" And so it took us 7 months to get to a contract deal because of that, because we had to do extensive electrical work. I mean, we found the location very early on. We liked it. We looked at a lot of them and we said, no, this is the one we want. And we're really glad we were there. But it was a lot of tooth pulling pain working with the city, getting contractors, getting electricians, and the cost of opening that I had budgeted for getting in, I about doubled. And so that really hurt.
Yeah. By the time you realized it was going to be double, was it like too late to go back?
It wasn't. We hadn't signed, and so that was the nice thing. By the time we had gotten in and we sat down and we were talking and figuring out where the costs were going to be, just all of the other locations just didn't fit as well. And so we made a purposeful choice of saying, okay, we're going to pay for it up front. On the back end, there will be some offsets and some value. And so we're glad we did it, but it really slowed down the opening process. I mean, we had hoped to open in 24. We didn't get open until February of 25. So, okay.
Yeah, got it. Okay, but it wasn't a surprise, which is kind of like the important part, right?
Well,
Like
it was a surprise of this wasn't on my radar, but it wasn't a surprise of wait, how much is it now? It was okay, now we got to go figure out this cost. Then we got to go figure out this cost. And then, so we saw it adding up and we knew what the outcome was going to be. And so it was an intentional choice, but it wasn't a pleasant one.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Okay. And then, so as far as like the next step, I guess, would be training, right? So could you walk us through what was training like? Do you feel prepared? Like what does the ongoing support look like? That sort of thing.
So that's one of the models, one of the reasons I picked this model, because the training is so comprehensive and so well done. So about a month before you open, they call it HealthSource University. You and your team fly out to the corporate headquarters in Ohio. By the way, traveling to Cleveland in January, don't. We got hit with 2 ice storms going and coming. So we went. You're working with doctors and you're practicing the roles. And so it gave us a really good taste. They gave us scripts that we had to memorize, and we're like, we're not getting this. This seems really canned. But it was the understanding of the information, how you put it together. And so that helped a great deal. And so when we came back and had 2 weeks back here working through opening and then going back to something they called EC, and this is basically you go work in a clinic for a week.
Oh, nice.
And so that helped a great deal. The training is absolutely fabulous. If anything, there's too much of it. I mean, they have an entire library, which they call the Cortex, and they have hundreds, if not thousands of hours of recordings and PowerPoint slides and anything you could ever want. And it's a little overwhelming to work your way through, but it was a great way to all get up to speed, to speak that language. And then it was the doing that we did with the grand opening. Well,
Very
not
cool.
the grand opening, with the soft opening. We had our grand opening a couple of months later once we felt comfortable and all that.
So, how did you know, right, like that this training was going to be that comprehensive? Did you talk to a bunch of franchisees? Was it just kind of trust us? Yeah.
So what, as part of the pre-sales, we went out and they showed us what was there and they walked us through, and I talked to other franchisees and they let me know, okay, the training is intensive. Every single franchisee said, look, it's a lot of work, pay the price, do it, it's worth it. And then getting in and digging in is like, okay, there's a lot here. And it's honestly something I need to do more of.
Mm-hmm.
But my team, the other thing I liked about this franchise is every Tuesday for the first half of the morning from 9 to noon, it's team training. We closed the clinic and this is corporate wide. And
Wow.
you train on a corporate topic, you train on local topics, and then you do whatever else you need to do. And so it's 3 1-hour blocks where you're getting to focus in on personal problems, team problems, corporate identified issues.
That's so valuable, right? Like, the way, like, even with my business, right? Like, we were like, man, there's so many things we wish we could take time, but it's like, okay, we didn't build that extra time because these are hourly employees into the schedule, right? And we got 10 of them. We don't have like just a block like that we could do. That's very cool that you guys have that.
It is. And
Yeah.
that was the one of the things I liked about it. I recognized it up front. It's like, okay, I'm paying for them to train, but I see the value in it because it goes immediately right back out onto the floor in the rehab bay and with the doctors. It's like, yeah, okay, no brainer.
Yeah. So what about bringing customers in, right? So you talked a little bit about marketing, right?
Yep.
Who's doing the marketing? Is it an outside firm? Is it internal? Like, how's that work?
So there is a corporate marketing division of the company, and they provide, like, every month there's a new special, and so they do a lot of that creative. And then we work with a third party called PDG, Paradigm Development Group, and so they're the ones doing the Facebook and the Google ads and the Instagram, and so they can also create the custom digital ads as well. We can do it as well, and we send it to them, and they'll clean it up. And so it's really a 3-part thing. There's the corporate portion that you can leverage and tweak. You can use your own, and then there's the third party that you can pay for.
Okay. And so you're basically controlling the budget of how much you're putting out per week.
Yep.
And then is there like a dashboard so you can see ROI stats and everything?
There is a dashboard. It's very manual. You can get enough, but it's not the automated look that in 2025 ought to be required.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about anything that, I don't know, ran smoother, anything that you're like, oh man, you were just dreading and it kind of fell into place as you got through these first, I guess, year and a half really since you signed the agreement?
Well, it went smoother than expected. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. It seemed like there was a whirlwind fight on just about every issue. But once we started the training, that's where it surprised me. That's where the rubber met the road. It was all instead of being overwhelmed by these scripts and all these processes that you're not touching, but actually getting to touch them. That was the part that came together faster than I thought.
Nice. I think that's kind of like a good reality check for people considering franchising is like, there's usually, if it's a good franchise, there's good training, there's good support, but like ultimately it's a lot of work. Like it's not an easy button. All because it's figured out doesn't mean this is an easy button. It's still very, very much work.
And to give them credit, when we went out and were planning a meeting with corporate to purchase, the CEO said, look, this is not a mutual fund. This is not something you buy and you put aside. This is something you have to be bought into and do work for. And I'm like, I totally get it. I'm good to do the work. I didn't realize how much work he was telling me about, but that's okay. And so I appreciated that realism check. What I didn't realize was how much marketing, sales was needed for the medical industry. I had never seen that or put that together. And so that's been honestly the toughest, longest lasting issue that we're still working through.
Yeah. And that's like, it's almost like gyms, right? Every gym owner I've ever met, they did it because they love working out, they love sports, but they're like, I spend all my day marketing and sales. Like, I don't even coach. I have coaches that do that. I do nothing with the gym. And so I think that's another good like realization for people is,
yeah,
when you buy a business, you're not doing the thing, right? Employees do the thing. Like you're selling the thing.
Yes, that very true. The one thing I would add is the employees need to be able to sell it
Yeah.
to those that they come in contact with, because they're selling in the store
Mhm.
or they're selling so we build in time for them to go out and do community outreach.
Oh,
That's where they need to learn how to sell. And that's the part that none of us realized how extensive that was.
okay, cool. And I mean, I feel with this, it's almost like it's a little bit of education, right? It's like drawing out the pain points and then educating people. Especially like where people want like a shot or a pill, and it's like, no, you have to do work. Like if you want your flexibility back, like you have to stretch and you have to do exercises and
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so can we talk about kind of like day to day? Are you still working your
Yes,
other job? Like
I
what
do.
does your day to day look like?
So my day to day, I work East Coast and India time. So I'm up at 5 in the morning and then I'm on the phone. My golden hour is 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. And so that's noon. And so after 10 a.m., I can look at the business. And then Tuesdays, I'm going in with training with the team. I come in for the last hour. They do the other stuff without me. And then it's trying to figure out, okay, got to pay bills, got to reach out to marketing, setting up events. It's the afternoons. This is where I put on my other hat and away we go.
That's cool that you have the flexibility to do that.
I am really lucky to do that,
Yeah.
but I'm the party pooper because I'm going to bed by 9 o'clock because I'm getting up at crack of dawn early.
Okay, so you're in the afternoon, and then just like the stuff that you're working on, like what would you say is your biggest, like I feel like there's always phases in a business, right? So like right now,
Yep.
like what's your biggest project to get you to the next stage of the business?
It's developing non-marketing driven leads. It's building community relationships. It's getting exposure through means other than dollars spent on Google and Facebook. So it's getting out in the community, getting to know other people, marketing who and what we do. And so just building that awareness. I mean, that was the biggest surprise for me. I didn't realize how much. I mean, this is a franchise that has never been in Utah, so the corporate value that they've built up in the Midwest and in the South just doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say, because people say, oh, you got to get out in the community, right? Like, and then when people go to do it, they're like, what does that mean? Like,
Oh, it's
like,
hard.
so what are you exactly doing? Are you going to BNI? Are you going to Chamber of
So
Commerce?
I tried, couldn't find a BNI that was open for chiropractors. They were all filled up. So looked at that. I work a fair amount with the local Chamber of Commerce. We have a really big chamber. It's for the county, not just the city. And so there's a lot there. And then a lot of it is just meeting people and trying to, a lot of it's cold calling. A lot of it is getting invited to events. So we have a really big 4th of July. It's called Freedom Fest out here. And there was a race. And so it's a mile, 5 mile, 10 mile, and the full marathon.
Nice.
And so we went out and were out there supporting, taping up before and adjusting afterwards, and just getting to know, hey, this is what we do. We can help you. Congrats on the race. And just letting people know there is a different option, because we are very different than the typical chiropractic. Come in, we'll crack you and walk out the door. It's no, come in, tell us where you hurt. We're not going to crack you today. If you're in pain, we'll figure out something, but we want to figure out why, not just the where.
Yeah. Do you use a different word or phrase to describe yourselves so people don't put you in the same bucket as chiropractors?
We don't. We probably ought to, but we call ourselves a holistic chiropractic clinic. And so this is the conversation. We're not just adjusting you. We're not just doing physical therapy. We're not just using the technology. We're using all of these put together in harmony to get you that relief and that strength and mobility back.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Okay. So what do you think the volume of like, the percent of patients that you see are recurring patients versus like one time, they come in for something and then they leave?
Oh, the majority of ours are recurring patients. We
Oh,
have
wow.
the model doesn't even handle with walk-in adjustments very well. It took us a few months to figure out how to price that because we didn't even have that on day one. It was like, no, that's not our model. And then we realized, no, we really need this because a lot of people who do that, or some of them, become recurring patients, but it's probably 80-20. The vast majority of who we have are long-term recurring patients, and very few are just the one and dones. But we needed to have that flexibility, and we didn't have that on day one. And so that was one of those things we learned.
Yeah, very cool. Okay. Um, and so like how close do you think you are to capacity?
Oh, we're nowhere close.
Oh yeah, so still lots of growth to go.
We still have lots of growth. So the ideal startup or clinic has two doctors, a rehab specialist, and then a receptionist. We don't have a rehab specialist. One of our doctors is acting in that role. And so until we grow to the point where we have the demand to be able to afford one, we'll just have the two doctors trading off into the rehab bay and then treating patients. They'll just tag team.
Got it. Cool. Okay. So still very much in growth mode.
Yes.
Which is normal, right? I think I'd
Oh,
say
yeah.
most franchises probably 2 years to really hit capacity. At least some more. So, um, does that sound like, what timeline do you think? You think you'll be there in 2-3 years?
I hope so. Let's put it this way. I thought the growth has been a lot slower than I expected.
Mm,
And so just the amount of marketing and working on that message and selling a product that is right for the area has taken a lot more work and time than I did not see that coming.
yeah. Do you think it's because like Provo, Utah is a little bit of a more traditional place? They hear holistic medicine and they think, not for me. Like, what do you think is the cause of that?
So my wife and I have very different opinions on this one. So Provo is a very traditional town, but there is a great demand and openness to alternative medicine styles.
Mm,
And so there is a fair amount of other chiropractic and physical therapies clinics in the area. Um, my wife would tell you that Provo is also very traditional and very debt averse. And so spending $2,000 on yourself to get out of pain is kind of a hard sell on occasion. And so I haven't quite figured out. I think we just haven't figured out how to target who we really want. And so a lot of the initial targeting was more in the Groupon area. How can I get the best deal? Which totally respect, but finding the people who, hey, I've got pain that's impacting my life and I have the means to do it is where we're using the business to business, targeting specific areas and demographics that resonates with.
yeah, yeah. I feel like that's and I don't know what. Maybe you're like walking into recurring revenue conversion numbers like super high, but I feel like getting doctors to sell is probably that's got to be tough too, right? Like you were
Oh,
saying.
absolutely
Yeah.
the hardest thing that just working with my doctors because they're they both came from a different franchise,
Oh,
and it was the treat them and street them, bring them in, adjust them, get them out the door, and so they love having the tools to actually focus on healing rather than immediate pain relief. Look, number one is immediate pain relief. Totally get that. And all of our work is, hey, we're going to get you out of pain. This is how we're going to do it. But phase two is all about strength, alignment, mobility, getting that back to you and using those different modalities.
nice. Yeah, and I think that'd be like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I feel like if I was, I'd be more motivated to actually like heal people than it's like giving them the pills versus like actually making them get better type of deal.
Yep.
Um,
And the best part about this business is we're getting to see them get better because they're doing it with us.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, if you have guys stay for a year, you're every month you're adding on top of that book of business that you've already sold, right? So like
Right.
there's also got to be some snowball effect there too. Um, okay, let's talk about kind of the franchisee relationship, right?
Okay.
So like it sounds like they have really great training, that weekly
Yep.
support. What about like problems? Have you ever had like something come up and you're like, I don't know how to deal with this, and
Yep.
like what is like give us an example of like how they handled it.
So the first one was just the aha moment of we need 300 amps of power, and just going back to the franchisor and saying, really? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so why didn't your realtor know? And so they helped us through that. The nice thing was the architect that they recommended had worked and knew and was able to help. A lot of we have on a regular basis, not as much so much now, but the first 3 months, how do we get the system to do this? How do we collect payment? How do we bill insurance? And so there are multiple touch points that we can reach out immediately, from the software side, from the financial side, to the execution side, meaning training, and work through that immediately. So the nice thing is they're a phone call or a text away, and we get help really, really fast.
Awesome. I love to hear that. And it's not just like one person who's trying to figure everything out. Like you guys
No.
sounds like there's very cool. Okay. Has your staff been with you since the beginning?
Yep.
Okay, so it sounds like there's really good retention there.
Well, I mean, 7 months. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't hire my doctors until about 3 months. Yeah, 3 months prior to opening. And so I had one doctor. He and I talked. I said, "Look, this is what I want to do, but I'm not hiring you until I know we're in construction. I have a date that we're going to get done." And he's like, "That's fine. I can wait." And then our second doctor we found right at the end, and the timing worked perfectly.
Nice. Okay. And then you're the other person, right, in the franchise. Um, so what type of person, um, not even this franchise, like just franchising in general. Like, can you kind of describe the personality and the skills, experience, whatever that you think a person considering franchise should have?
Wow, that's an interesting question. So so my wife and I are doing this, and so we kind of split duties.
Okay.
She is much more empathetic, touchy feely, and I am much more on the numbers. Let's walk the walk. And so having to do all of that in one person to me seems honestly overwhelming. And I'm glad there's the two of us, because being able to balance the books, have the hard conversations about numbers, be able to understand, hey, this is where we're going and this is what the implications are, versus, hey, they're having a bad day. We need to build relationships. We need to build that trust and teamwork. And so between the two of us, we handle it pretty well. But I can't even imagine one person being it for all. I mean, that's superhuman level. I mean, you're good with numbers and you're good with people. You're good at forethought and you're good at immediate details. And those are absolute opposite ends of the spectrum, but you need both sets of capabilities.
Yep. Yep. That's almost exactly kind of what I tell people with my franchise. My wife's the one. It's a dance franchise. We hire 20 to 30-year-old women for the most part. Like none of them would work for me. So like she's all the talking and the whatever, make them feel
Yep.
good. Same thing with the
Yep.
teachers, and I'm the numbers, I'm the strategy, I'm the hey, like this is where we're leaking people, like we need to fix this problem type of deal. So
Yep.
cool. Okay. Um, is there anything that you would tell people, like misconceptions, like, hey, if you think this is fill in the blank what a franchise is, um, just don't even try.
Well, if you think it's easy, it's not. If you think it's a mutual fund where you invest your money and you get a payout, it's not. If you think that um, someone else has the answers, they might, but they also may not. And a lot of it, the local stuff, you got to figure out on your own. So if you're trying to buy a ready-made solution, get a McDonald's. I mean, that's the level of hand holding that you're going to need. If you're trying to do something where it's a lot more independent, get ready for being a whole lot more independent, because we got lucky and we chose it intentionally. We have really good support that we can go find, but that doesn't answer all of the questions. So right now we're trying to figure out, how do we market better? How do we attract to that demographic? We've seen it on occasion, flashes of it, but it's not consistent. So how do you get out into the community? How do you build relationships? All those things you can read about and watch a video on. Doing them, totally different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the McDonald's, right? Like, they're just different problems. Okay, people know McDonald's, they're gonna stop McDonald's, but like, think of the turnover in the
Yep.
McDonald's, the maintenance, the inventory. Like, they have
Yep.
all the tools, but like, you still have to train the people and make sure they're not stealing from you and they're not doing all these other things.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think if you had anything else where you had like, you have doctors working for you, right? So like, I think if you had less competent people, like even the 10 a.m. to the evening, unless it's like a evening based franchise, I think it would be tough for most people, because your competition's in it full time, right?
Yep.
So like, they're working very hard. Yeah, I think that's just something that, the whole semi passive thing doesn't exist. Okay. Let's talk about your growth plan, right? So like, what do your goals look like? Is it just the one and done? Do you want to grow this to multiple units? Like, what are you see your future as?
So it depends on the day. Initially, when we went in, it was, we definitely want 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably what it would take to truly get me out of consulting and working in the financial industry. At this point, I just want to get to break even and then take a step back and go, okay, do I want to do this again? So there's things that I really like about it. There's things that are a lot more. I didn't realize how heavy the leash would be. I figured, okay, I'm owning a business, but I'm paying people to run it, but that leash doesn't go away. And so that's the part where I'm still trying to figure out. Ultimately, yes, I still would like to have 2, maybe 3, but the time frame that I originally had of open the first one in year 1, open the second one in year 3, open the third one in year 5, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's say you do decide to go forward with unit 2, right? Like, what are you doing differently that time?
The number one thing I would do differently is interviewing the doctors more for the sales ability. And so I know I'm looking for a much rare unicorn in the haystack, but knowing how critical that is, that would probably be the number one thing I did differently, is just getting someone who likes to go out and talk to people and sell a product that they believe in.
Do you think you would just need one, like one doctor that needs to do that, or is like they all need to be able to do that?
Well, they both need to do it, but there has to be at least one, and neither of the two. One is more than the other, but it's still not their preference of things to do. And so I need someone who likes it, not tolerates it and does it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Huh. Yeah, it's an interesting problem, right? Because like, nobody goes to medical school to be a salesman, right?
No one goes to medical school to be a salesman, but some people have that innate gift of the gab and the ability to emote and to connect. And I understand that's a much rarer individual, but that would be, I'd need to find that person before I jumped in again.
Yeah, yeah. Does the franchise have you use any like Gallup strength finders or any of those like personality tests for your doctor?
They don't. I used what was it? 13 me. There's the one about the 16 personality tests. I use that. I use that just for aha moments. It helps me communicate better with my employees because I know where they stand. But they didn't. The one thing they did do is when we were interviewing is they said, look, we will not pick. This is your choice. And I'm like, good. But I don't know what a competent chiropractor is. I know what it feels like, but I can't talk to them. And so they helped us with the technical evaluation. And then it was my portion to evaluate the soft skills. And I had them give me an adjustment. And I was like, okay, did I enjoy this? And would someone else enjoy it? So, but tools in terms of figuring out that balance? No, they did not. But it's been the aha moment of, okay, I went to the side of the spectrum of caring, able to relate to people, very good doctors. And my doctors crush it on that side. All of us are lacking on the, hey, let's go out and sell this. That is not my idea of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Cool. And then the long term like industry as a whole, right? Do you see any tailwinds or headwinds as you're forecasting in the future?
Well, there's always economic uncertainty. So that is. But the one thing that's just absolutely jaw dropping, it's like 50% of Americans live with chronic pain. 30% of Americans are overweight. And just the amount of opportunity out there to help people, forget the business side of that, that'll take care of itself. Just the sheer ability to help people who crawl in and run out just is getting bigger every single day. And the ability to do this in a non-pharmaceutical way. Look, drugs have a point and a place. So does surgery, but it's not the first option and it's not the only option. We like to come in with all the options in between and say, hey, before you have to get there, try this. Your body's wise. Listen to it. Use it. It works out better in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just the general, I see what you're saying, and I feel like as people are becoming more health conscious as well, right?
Yep.
And I feel like the younger generations are more like they're okay spending money on themselves, maybe a little bit more than the olders are. Yeah,
Yep.
so that's an interesting take on the industry. Okay, are you seeing any consolidation of like private equity coming into the space that could be potential competition for you?
Not that I've seen. I mean,
No?
there's a couple of big franchises, and then for the most part, this has been a very locally driven, individually owned portion of the medical industry. So what you've seen with dental offices and doctors being consolidated into HMOs and large groups has not happened yet.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. And even like the big ones, because I know which ones you're talking about, right? Like the joint and stuff like that. But those are all like you go in, like what would you say? Treat them and street them,
Treat 'em
right?
and street 'em.
So I feel like there's something very different about this that I wasn't even aware of. So that's cool. It sounds like the real difficulty is just getting people to understand that.
It's getting to understand. So the problem is, so if you know of chiropractic, your expectation is I'm going to go and get adjusted and that's it. Yeah. So presenting a different model takes a little bit of people retraining and rethinking, but then understanding, hey, I'm willing to invest in myself and getting people to figure out, you know what, your insurance doesn't pay for that. And so finding out how do we work within those financial realities.
Yeah. Because I went to exactly what you said, where they just like crack you. And I went to this one guy when I lived in California, and I did like a 8-week or 12-week or whatever it was with him. And at one point he was like, I went in and it was just all he did was like massage my calves that day. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, I am wasting my money here. And I walked out. I felt so good. And it was my back, and like you're saying, like your feet and your legs. I was like, okay, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about. So, I hear what you're saying. Okay. And then, just to wrap up, let's talk about, advice to future owners, right? So like, what are some questions, that you wish you asked or had answered before signing the franchise?
I wished I had taken the financial, I can't remember the name of the document, where they give you the financials and said, okay, break this out by clinics that are under 3 years old, under 2 years old, under 1 year old. The expectations of contrasting $1 million clinics with startup clinics, your average is skewed the wrong way. And so just being able to say, okay, what are reasonable expectations for break even, for revenue, for whatever? And so I was good with the numbers. I didn't realize how off isn't the right word, because they gave me the correct data, but they gave me all the data. And I didn't look at the data in context, and the context that I assumed the data was saying was not. And so that's my issue. I have nothing against what they did. They presented the data. I didn't go in and do the due diligence and ask more questions of, I want to talk to a first year owner. I want to talk to multiple first year owners. It wasn't until we were up and running and I talked to a couple of doctors who own their own clinics, and they said, yeah, it takes 6 months. And I was like, blink, blink. And so the runway I had planned for versus the runway reality that was coming out were very disparate, and it was a bit of a shock. And so that would be the biggest number one thing is take your runway, double it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because like the average FDD shows numbers for franchises that have been open for at least 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And they have to be within compliance and whatever. So you have to be very careful to read, because I've read some franchises that had 250 owners and 240 of them were in the FDD. And I've read some that had 250 owners and 100 of them were in the FDD. And it's like, okay, these are your 100 best guys, right?
Yes.
So you have to be careful there. I always recommend you talk to at least a dozen people, and it should be a mix of like really good owners, not great owners, old owners, new owners, similar cities to yours, similar background to yours. And then the other thing that I think non-business people don't realize is they build a P&L, but they don't build a full 3-statement model. And they're like, oh, my P&L says $10,000 in profit. Well, that's $10,000 for me. And it's like, that's not at all what it is, because you have taxes. You need to build your working capital buffer. And as your business gets bigger, the expenses get bigger. So your buffer needs to get bigger. So you could end up with nothing, even though you made $10,000 on paper.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So I will say, in working with the Repum, I think was the group, the P&L they had covered all those things. I mean, there was taxes, that was not the surprise. The part that bit me was the assumption on the conversion rate initially, and then the retention rate. And so when they gave us those numbers for established clinics, I assumed, oh yeah, we can get there. When you're starting from ground zero, it's a totally different model. The other thing was, we're some of the first non-DC, non-chiropractic owners. And so we're in the first ones that don't have training. Yes, we're business people, but we don't know the insurance. We don't know how to adjust. And so learning to navigate those two worlds of, okay, these things I can do really well, P&L, fine, okay, fine. But this whole insurance, what? The medical, I'm going to get investigated? What? Just there's a world that I don't speak that language on day one. And so that's where I wish I had asked much more questions. Your point, ask a dozen. I mean, I talked to, I don't know if it was a dozen, but it was at least 8 different owners. And I got a perspective. The problem was they were all been established for a while. They all had multiple clinics, and they were telling me exactly what was reality for them, but it wasn't reality for someone on day one who knew nothing about the medical industry other than, do I got to go?
Yeah. I think that's like a really good point too, right? Because it's like, you need people who have a similar background to yours. And most franchises are like flooring, it's like, it's not something that you're a doctor,
Right.
So that is an interesting like nuance for these type of medical practices. Okay. And then for Repum, I didn't realize this was a Repum brand, right? So Repum is a franchise sales organization,
Right.
And they have different arms. They have a build them brand,
Market
them, I think, or grow them or something like that.
I worked with Build Them and Repum.
In Repum, okay. So like, how's just that experience been? Because they have a portfolio, right, of franchises that they sell.
Right. Mixed. There were parts that they were very good at, and there were parts that they didn't do enough due diligence or didn't make sure that I asked the right question. And I know that's on me, but when you take all the data and you're assuming that that's going to apply to a brand new startup, you're really selling something that really isn't there. And so I understand that's the game and that's reality, and it was bad on me, but I didn't catch that nuance until way too late.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice, because every franchise does that.
Oh yeah, they do, and they're legally constrained. and they're playing within the rules, and I got nothing against them there. It's just they're in it to sell you, and you are the product. Whereas it's not. It's a little bit different than purchasing a car.
Yeah. Yep. Um, Interesting. So for, people, again, I'm going to plug myself here. If you go to appapp.tracerfranchising.com, it's going to walk you through everything, and things like what you're talking about, I've laid out for people to ask and to look out for, and so on. So, yeah, I still think like there's great franchises out there, but people need to know what they're getting into, right? Kind of like to your
Oh,
point.
I think I bought into a fantastic franchise. I
Yeah.
totally believe in the model. I totally believe in the product. It's just some of the cultural differences coming from a military business background going into medical business. There's not as much of an overlay there as you think there is. So, okay. And then just realizing your job is to sell and your job is to advertise. So if you're not comfortable with either of those two things, look at this really hard.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you go to bed and you wake up and it's actually 2 years ago, right? But you know everything that you know right now. Would you still get into a franchise?
Wow. Um, yes, I would, but I'd do it differently. And I'd ask a lot of different questions. And so I made a few assumptions. Some were right, some were wrong. But yes, I would do it because I like I love the freedom that a franchise gives you, at least the one I bought into. I mean, it's not 100% corporate lockstep. They train you and then they let you go do your own thing. That's one of the things I really liked. But it's also like debt. It's always on your mind. And so
Yeah.
that can be a good thing, but it can also be a really hard thing. So, yes, I think I would still walk this path, but future me would tell past me, hey, slow down, ask this question, ask this question, ask this question. And the biggest thing I do differently is just the amount of runway going in. I mean, the assumptions I made were way too rosy. And no, if I had known, talking to a few chiropractors, okay, this really takes 6 months to a year, it would have changed a lot of assumptions I made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what you said, you would have asked this question, right? You can't leave us hanging, right? What are a couple of those questions that you would have asked?
Well, I've
The
alluded to
fun-
these. One, show me the performance of startup stores. Show me the performance of non DC business owner stores. Show me what that growth rate really looks like. And I mean, when I went to the convention, they always show the outlier, and it's like, oh, I can do some of that. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but where's the midpoint of your peers? And that's the part that they did not offer up, and I did not search out diligently enough.
Got it. Got it.
So
Okay.
it's
And that goes back. Mhm.
having better expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that goes back to talking to franchises. So for people listening, the franchisor can only provide earnings claims that are in the franchise disclosure document. Like I said, usually those are 2 years or older franchises, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Um, and so if you want more information, you have to seek out the franchisees. And so even if the franchisor is like, oh, well, here are the people you should talk to, and that doesn't, you're like, well, I want to talk to more people. Their names and phone numbers are in the back of the FDD, and you can just call them. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. There's no rules in business. Right? Basically, you just do whatever you want as long as you're not breaking the law, and you're following the franchise guidelines, right? So, yeah. So I think that's a great plug, and I think it's easy for people when they're in this research process and they've been doing it for 3 months. They feel like they've researched enough, and it's like, nope, this is a reminder. Like, you need to do more research. So,
You do.
cool,
You
very
do.
cool. Alrighty, so let's just wrap up.
Okay.
One last tip, right, for people looking to go franchising. What's like the one big takeaway from your experience for them?
One big tip. Know what success looks like for you, and then know what your don'ts are. figure out upfront what you will not do. And so I kind of backed into that when in 2010 I looked at my first franchise. I didn't have those initial rules, but I knew what the second time. Okay, I will not work on Sundays. I will not do fast food, and I want something that gives me a fair amount of leeway. I would absolutely have those lifestyle requirements to analyze the product you're seeing. I mean, there are lots of cool franchises out there, but is this what you want your lifestyle to be? Realizing you're going to be living that for a while.
Yep. That's good. That's really good. I have a long quiz that I have people fill out. It's like 70 questions. But I don't think I have what are things that you absolutely will not accept, right? That's a good question. I'm gonna add that. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, that's it. I really appreciate it, Joe. And then just as a reminder, guys, if you want free resources, you want to speak with me, I can help you find great franchises. Like I said, there's a quiz, there's an interview. I do a ton of research. I do independent research based on industry trends, leadership, item 19, financial earnings, turnover rates, all that stuff. And I'll help you through the research process. So, yep, please reach out to me. You can book, again, on tracerfranchising.com, or you can get any of those free resources or sign up for the newsletter. All right. Thanks, Joe. And, best of luck and as you grow this thing.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure to meet you. We'll see you.